When someone dies in our community, no one calls a company. There is no sales room with caskets on stands and a price card beside each one. There is no invoice at the end. There is no bill at all, and I mean that literally. From the moment a person stops breathing to the moment the last shovel of earth is patted down over them, almost no money changes hands. The average American funeral now costs somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000. Ours costs a few hundred, and most of that is the cemetery mowing fund and the lumber. I want to walk you through it, hour by hour, the way it actually happens. Not because I think you should copy it. Most of it you could not copy if you wanted to. But because there is one thing in the middle of it that I believe the outside world has lost by accident, without ever deciding to lose it, and once I show you where it is, you will not be able to unsee it. My name is Amos. I am Amish. I have carried 4 coffins in my life and helped dig 2 graves, and my own is already accounted for in a churchyard I can see from the road. It starts within the hour. Word goes out. Not by telephone, mostly, though there is a phone in a shanty at the end of some lanes now, and it does get used for this. It goes out by buggy and by neighbor, and within a few hours, everyone in the church district knows, and by the next morning, so do relatives 4 settlements away, because someone drove to the phone and called a message into a store. And then something happens that I have never been able to explain properly to an outsider. The family stops working. Completely. They do not milk, they do not cook, they do not clean. From that hour until 3 days later when the grave is filled, the immediate family has no jobs at all, because every job they had has been taken by somebody else. The neighbors decide this among themselves in the yard. 2 men take the milking, morning and evening, for 3 days. Someone takes the children who are too small to sit still. Women arrive and take over the kitchen entirely, and there will be more food in that house over the next 3 days than the family has cooked in a month. Someone will quietly do the family's laundry. Someone will feed the horses. Someone will sweep the porch. Nobody signs up. Nobody organizes it. There is no list on a refrigerator. They simply arrive and begin, and the family is not asked and does not have to say yes, which matters more than it sounds like it does, because a grieving man cannot organize his own help and should not have to. Now, the body. In most of our settlements, an undertaker is called for one specific thing, because the law requires it: embalming and the death certificate. That part is done by a professional in town, and it is generally the one real expense, and the man who does it in a county with Amish in it usually knows exactly what is wanted and charges very little for it. Then the body comes home. The family washes it and dresses it themselves. That is the part that stops people. A man's sons wash their father. A woman is dressed by her daughters and her sisters, and the clothes are not bought. They were made, often years earlier, by the person's own family, sometimes by the woman herself. A woman is buried in white. A white dress, a white cape and apron, and her covering. In many communities, she is buried in the cape and apron she wore on her wedding day, kept in a drawer for 50 years for exactly this. A man is buried in white too, and often in the same vest he was married in. Think about that arrangement for a moment. The garment you wear at the beginning of your family and the garment you wear at the end are the same garment, folded in a drawer between, in a house where you can go and look at it any time you like. There is no way to grow up in that house and imagine that death is something that happens somewhere else to other people. The coffin is plain pine, made by a man in the community who makes them, and in some places by a neighbor. 6 sides, tapered at the shoulders and narrow at the feet, unlined and unpadded, no handles, no varnish, or almost none. In some settlements the lid is in 2 pieces, so the top half can be opened at the viewing and the rest stays closed. It is not decorated because we do not decorate it. There is no nameplate, there is no satin. It is a wooden box built well by someone who knew the person in it. Then the house is emptied. The furniture goes out of the first floor. Beds, sofas, tables, chairs, out to the barn or a shed, because 250 people are coming and they have to sit. The benches arrive from the church wagon, the same benches used for services, and they are set through the rooms. The body is laid in a room on the ground floor, and for 2 full days people come. They come all day, neighbors, and then relatives, and then people from other settlements who drove half a day. They come in, they greet the family, they view the body, they sit, and they eat, and they talk quietly, and they leave, and more come. It goes on for 2 days. I want to be honest about what that is like. It is exhausting. There are widows who have told me afterward that they hardly remember the 2 days. It is not a gentle custom. You do not get to be alone with it, but you also do not get to be alone with it. And I have come to believe that is the entire point, and that it was designed by people who understood something about grief that we have since decided to be too polite to say out loud, that the worst thing you can do to a person who has lost someone is leave them in a quiet house. On the 3rd day, the funeral. It is held in the home, or in the barn if the house cannot hold the crowd, and it is long. 2, sometimes 3 hours. 2 ministers preach. And here is the thing that visitors find hardest, and I want to explain it rather than defend it. There is no eulogy. The dead person's name is barely spoken. There is no telling of the life, no list of accomplishments, no story about the funny thing he said in 1974, no favorite song, no slideshow. The preaching is scripture, and it is about death and resurrection generally, and about the people sitting in the room, who are going to die too and had better be ready. Our reasoning is that a funeral is not for praising a person. Praising a person is a way of setting them above the others, and we do not do that in life. So we do not begin at the grave. He was a member of the body. He is gone from it. God will judge the man, and it is not the church's business to summarize him. I know how cold that can sound. I have sat in that room. It is not cold when you are in it. The love is not in the speech. It is in the 200 people who took a working day, and in the men who milked your cows for 3 days, and in the fact that the woman across from you sewed the dress your mother is wearing. Some communities allow more than others. In some, a written obituary is read, born on this date, married to this person, survived by these children. That is the extent of it. Then the burial. There are no flowers, not one. Not on the coffin, not in the room, not at the grave. No wreath, no spray, no arrangement from anybody. There is no music at the graveside either, though a hymn may be read aloud rather than sung. The coffin goes in a plain buggy, or a wagon, and the horses walk. The procession behind it can be 60 or 100 buggies long, moving at a walk, and if you have ever been held up behind one on a country road, hats off, and now you know what it was. The grave was dug by hand, by neighbors, the day before, with shovels. There is no machine and no green cloth laid over the dirt to hide what it is. There is a mound of earth beside the hole, and everyone can see it. 4 pallbearers, usually young men from the community, lower it with straps. The bishop reads, and then the pallbearers fill the grave in, by hand, while everyone stands there and watches, and the family stands closest. That is the part I would ask you to sit with. They do not leave. In most of the outside world, the family is taken away before the grave is filled, and it is filled later by employees, and I understand entirely why that arrangement exists, because it is kinder in the moment. We do the opposite. We stand there until it is done. The sound of it is not hidden from anybody, including the children, who are present, and who are not sent to a neighbor's house for the day. The stone, when it comes, is small, and it is the same size and shape as every other stone in that yard. Name, dates, age, nothing else. A bishop and a stillborn child get the same stone. Walk one of our cemeteries and you cannot tell who was important, because in that yard nobody was. And then it ends. The next morning the family milks their own cows again. But the community does not stop, and this is the part outsiders never see because it happens after the visitors have gone home. The weeks after a death are when the real work of it is done. A widow will find that somebody has come for the heavy jobs and will keep coming. A widower with small children will find women in his kitchen for months. Invitations to Sunday dinner arrive and keep arriving through the whole first year, because our people understand that the second month is harder than the first week, and that the danger is not the funeral. The danger is March. If the man who died was the earner, the church does not hold a meeting about it. The deacon has a fund. It is money the members put in, quietly, and the deacon is the only one who knows exactly who received what. And that secrecy is deliberate. It is possible in our community to be helped without the whole district knowing you needed it. There is no life insurance policy behind any of this. There is no policy at all. What there is instead is 400 people who will not let it happen, and a farm with no mortgage on it, which is the same protection arriving by a different road. And there is one more thing, and it is the closest we come to an obituary. We have a newspaper. It has been printed weekly since 1890, and every settlement has a scribe who writes in with the news of that district, and it is read in Amish kitchens from Pennsylvania to Montana. In it you will find who visited whom, whose barn burned, what the weather did to the hay, and who died. The notice is 4 or 5 lines. Born, married, survived by, buried on. No adjectives. But the death of a farmer in Indiana is read that week in 100 kitchens in Ohio by people who never met him, and somewhere among them will be an old man who says, out loud to his wife, over the paper, "I knew his father." That is our monument. 4 lines in a farm paper, and one old man remembering across 900 miles. One more thing, about the children, because visitors always ask, and it is the piece I would most want carried away. They are there, all of it. The 2 days of viewing in the front room, the 3-hour service, the walk to the grave, the filling in. A 5-year-old will be lifted up to see the body of his grandmother. He will be told, plainly, that she is dead, and that this is what happens, and that she is buried in the ground, and that we will all be buried in the ground. Nobody says she is sleeping. Nobody says she has gone away. He will also see 40 adults he knows carrying on with the work of the day around it, calm, feeding people, doing the milking, laughing in the kitchen at some point, because that is what happens in a house full of people, and that is exactly as important as the coffin. What he learns is not that death is frightening. What he learns is that death is survivable by the people around him, because he watched them survive it, up close, at 5. I have thought a great deal about the alternative, where a child is kept away from all of it out of kindness, and meets it for the first time at 30, alone, with no idea what anyone does. And when it is over, our cemeteries are mowed by the neighbors. There is no perpetual care fund, no company, no endowment. Somebody's boy takes the mower down there in the summer because his father told him to, and that is the whole arrangement, and it has kept those yards for 200 years. Now let me say the honest part, because I said I would. This is not gentler than what you do. It is harder in several places. There is no privacy in it at all. A person who wants to grieve quietly and alone does not get to. There is no room for a family that was not close, or for the complicated dead, or for the ones nobody quite forgave. The service will not mention any of that. And a woman who wanted her husband praised out loud, once, in front of everyone, will not get that either, ever. And I have known one who never stopped minding. But here is the exchange, and it is a real one. You get an absence of decisions. A grieving family in the outside world is handed, within a day, a series of expensive choices. Which casket, which vault, which package, which flowers, what music, open or closed, what to write. Each one is presented as a way to show how much you loved them, and each one has a price, and the whole thing arrives at the exact hour when a human being is least able to think. In our arrangement there is nothing to choose. It is the same for everyone. The clothes were already made, the box is the box, the words are the words, the stone is the stone, and that means that not 1 ounce of what a family feels in those 3 days has to be converted into a purchase. I think that is the piece worth carrying out of here, and you do not need a horse to use it. You can write down, now, while you are well, what you want done, plainly, so the people who love you are not made to prove it with a credit card in a showroom on the worst afternoon of their lives. The rest of it, the neighbors doing the milking, the 200 people, the hand-dug grave, that only works because it is a whole world, and you cannot buy the world at a store either. But you can take the choosing away from them. That is free, and it may be the last practical kindness a person is able to do. My grandfather is in that yard. His stone is the same as the one next to it, which belongs to a man he argued with for 40 years about a fence line. They are the same size. I think he would find that funny. He told me once, when I was young enough to be frightened by the whole business, that a coffin is only a wheelbarrow. It takes you the last little way, and then somebody puts it down and goes back to work. And that is exactly right, and it is not sad, and you had better have done your work.